Hi, everybody, and welcome to Northwest Arkansas. We're at the Butler family farm where they grow chickens for Tyson Foods. Now, today we're going to take a tour of this chicken house. We're going to meet our farmer as well as an animal well-being specialist and one of our Tyson Foods veterinarians. But first, a little bit about what we're doing today, why we're live streaming, and exactly what you can expect. Now, we wanted to bring you onto the farm and inside a chicken house to give you a behind-the-scenes look at exactly how the birds live and all the steps that are taken to ensure that they're as healthy and as comfortable as possible. But we also want to hear from you. We want to take your questions. So as we go through the next few minutes, please submit your questions in the comment section below, because once we're done with this tour and we've talked to some of our experts, we're going to bring them back to a panel and we're going to answer some of those questions that you have submitted. Now, after the panel, we're not done yet. We're going to leave the camera rolling live from inside the house to give you kind of an extended view of what it's like with a very unique view of these birds. Now, one of those folks who's going to be taking questions today is Dylan Butler. He's an 8th-generation farmer, a 4th-generation poultry farmer. And, Dylan, come on in here. We appreciate you having us out to your farm today.
Absolutely. I'm glad you guys can be here.
Yeah, so first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, tell us why you chose this career and kind of why you chose this lifestyle.
Well, my family's been in farming now for, like you say, 4 generations of poultry farming and 8 generations of just normal farming on top of that. And so it's a lifestyle that we choose. It's something that we love to do. There's a lot of freedom with being a farmer. There's a lot of pride that comes with it, and we just love what we do.
Absolutely. Now, before we get any further, I'm sure everybody out there has noticed these really cool outfits that we have on today. No, we're not going to be performing surgery. They're really critical to the animal well-being and the health of these birds. So, Dylan, tell us a little bit about what these suits are and why we're wearing them.
Well, these are biosecurity suits. So basically the idea behind these suits is if we happen to pick up a disease or something that could be harmful to the chickens, we're going to put these on. We're going to put protective wear over our shoes, protective wear over our heads, to where that's not going to be an issue.
Sure, just the first step in many that you're going to learn about, again, all about protecting the health of these birds. So, again, we're outside the house and we're about to go inside, and we've got a lot of equipment that plays a very critical and important role to keeping these birds well. So kind of tell me what we're seeing outside.
Well, right here behind us, what you're seeing, you're probably seeing a massive wall of metal right here, and what you're seeing is 2 feed bins, and they are what you're seeing here is a 35,000-pound feed bin. So there's 2 of those. There's 70,000 pounds of feed storage right here that's connected to a fill system that runs inside the chicken house to feed our chickens.
And what's the feed made of?
The feed is just a corn-based feed with essential vitamins, minerals, nutrients, and amino acids for a healthy diet. And
then kind of at the end of the house, describe some of those fans down there.
Yeah, so those fans, those are what we call tunnel fans. They're 54-inch tunnel fans. There's 14 of them on these houses, and we also have 4 48-inch exhaust fans on these houses. So a lot of fan power to bring in fresh air, and it also has a cooling effect with wind chill, which we'll probably talk about here later.
Yeah, so the birds do get fresh air.
Oh, absolutely, all the time.
Okay, so as we make our way into kind of the control room of the house, yet another biosecurity step with the foot bath. So I'm gonna step through here first. And then Dylan, and explain, kind of what kind of material we've got here and why this is part of the biosecurity process.
Well, this is a dry bleach material, and what it does is just a disinfectant. So you step in there with your boots, and then you walk on into the computer room to where it's just one more step of ensuring that everything is disinfected before going into the chicken house. There's also a liquid version right here.
Now, I call this a control room. You just referenced this as a computer room, and I think that's pretty accurate. I think a lot of people would be surprised at the amount of technology that goes into one of these houses. So kind of tell us, what we're looking at here and the purpose that these control panels serve.
Well, to put it quickly, what you're looking at here is three control panels, and this panel right here, this is a toggle switchboard. These toggle switches operate everything inside this chicken house, from fans to feed motors, just everything that you can possibly imagine, lights, everything. Operates off this toggle switch. Over here is the main brain of the chicken house, and so we can throw these toggle switches down into auto, And that basically is telling this main brain that it can control this. And it does that through timers, it does it through sensors, temperature sensors, all different types of things. And it'll tell what to run, when to run. And then the last board that you're looking at, if something catastrophic happened, if we got hit by lightning or something like that, what this does is this ensures what we were talking about earlier, that we're pulling fresh air into the chicken house, even if everything goes bad. And this is the expanded backup control panel.
So that's one kind of level of insurance that you have, but there's another kind of layer on top of that. You can get mobile notifications that'll tell you if something is offline with these control panels.
Absolutely. So if what we call that is an alarm system. So if something goes wrong, and everything in this chicken house has a way to communicate to this control panel over here, or to this computer board over here, to tell if there's a problem. If there's a problem, we'll get a phone call within the minute. We'll be down here within 2 minutes to fix the problem. And, you know, with any type of issue, if you resolve it in 2 minutes, everything's hunky-dory inside the chicken house.
So we live in a very connected society, and the same goes for chicken farmers, right?
Absolutely. You bet.
Okay, so as we step inside the house, I'm going to step over here, and I know that you have kind of yet another step in biosecurity before you enter. So tell me about what you're doing now.
Absolutely. Well, you can see I stepped onto this platform here, and I have a pair of cheap rubber boots on this platform, and these are the boots. These boots never leave this platform except unless they're going into the chicken houses to see the chickens. So I'm going to step into my chicken house boots, which we actually refer to these as clean boots because they're disease-free. They never have to be contaminated outside. If there's contamination outside, we just don't risk that by stepping into these boots. So we call this the boot swap. It's a creative name.
The boot swap. All right. Now we're going to swap outdoors for indoors as we head inside the house. And, so explain a little bit, about what we're seeing here. I'm sure a lot of folks at home that are watching this right now have never seen the inside of a chicken house. So we've got lines, we've got the feed, but explain kind of what's going on here.
Well, what you're seeing here is a 55 by 600 foot long chicken house. And in that chicken house, we have 3 feed lines that span the whole length of the chicken house, evenly spaced throughout the width of the chicken house. And then we also have 6 water lines that span the whole distance of the chicken house, that are evenly spaced between the feed lines and the chicken house. And what that does is that makes sure that the chickens all can get to a good bite of food and can also get a good drink of water, just as easy, probably easier than what you can at home.
So constant access to whatever they need.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So how would you describe, the comfort level, of these birds right now?
Well, I think these chickens look very comfortable. A lot of them are sitting down. A lot of them are just hanging out, just real happy to be doing what they're doing. You can see some of them here they're eating on feed. Some of them are drinking water. So they're very comfortable chickens. I don't see a thing wrong with what we're looking at right now. I wouldn't change anything. And if I saw something wrong, we'd make an adjustment immediately.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So are these birds kept inside the whole time that they're here at your farm?
Yes, sir, they are.
And, there's a little bit of a school of thought out there that says this may not be enough space for these birds. So what's your reaction to that?
Well, I would say just, one, they're a very social type of animal. They run together, and you can see that even if you were to turn some chickens outside, you can see that. They're a very social type animal, and I mean, you can just look around here. These birds are very, very comfortable living the way they're living, and I would say that they are not overcrowded.
Yeah. So, another part of this process, certainly there's a relationship with Tyson Foods, and in a critical part of that relationship is the technician that comes out and helps you guys manage this flock. So just kind of describe that relationship and how that works.
Well, our Tyson technician is just about like family to us. On an off week, we might only see him 1 or 2 times that week, but normally he's going to be out here anywhere from 3 to 5 times. I mean, they really do a great job at coming out here, and their goal is what our goal is. They want the bird to be happy, they want the bird to be healthy, and they want the housing conditions to be perfect. Mm-hmm. And so that's what they come out here to ensure. They might throw an idea at us that we need to try, but that's what they're checking on.
So it sounds like you take every step possible to ensure that those birds are as healthy and as comfortable as possible. So just from a from a personal standpoint, why is that so important to you?
Well, I'm a farmer, and that's what farmers do, is we take care of animals. And so that's my main goal. When I wake up in the morning, that's the goal. Go take care of your animals. And taking care of animal means that they're happy, they're healthy, and that they're in comfortable living conditions. And also, from a farmer's perspective, we want our birds to be as comfortable as possible. That way, we do as best as we possibly can. I mean, this is our livelihoods.
Absolutely. Dylan, we appreciate your time, but I do have one more question for you. You know, some folks may call this a factory farm. As someone who lives and breathes this all the time, what's your reaction when someone describes this as a factory farm?
I've heard that term before, and I tell you, I don't really know what factory farming means. I don't really know what that is. This is a family farm. So me and my brothers and my dad, we take care of these farms, and also we have families that help us take care of these farms. So this is a family farm. I don't know what a factory farm is, but this is a family farm.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Dylan, we certainly appreciate your time, and thanks for giving us the tour.
Absolutely.
We're going to check in with you back in here in just a minute when we round back up, everybody back up for our panel. So that reminds me, if you do have a question for Dylan or any of our other experts that we're going to talk to, please leave that question in the comment section below, and after we're done with our interviews, we will come back with our full panel to answer some of those questions that you've submitted. So now we're going to bring in one of our other folks, and right now we're going to talk to Nick Wolfenden, one of the people who oversees our animal well-being program. And Nick, thanks for being with us here today.
Thanks for having me.
So you helped create this animal well-being specialist program. You oversee about half of those nearly 60 animal well-being specialists, and right now you're holding a bird. So as an animal well-being specialist, how do you judge the health of this chicken?
Yeah, so this girl here is about 3 weeks old. You can see she's kind of going through her goofy teen stage. That means she's losing some of her chick fluff or fuzz, and she's starting to get in some of her adult feathers. On top of that, she's got nice, healthy feet and legs, bright, clear eyes. She's very much so paying attention to us. All signs of a pretty healthy bird.
All right, well, we'll let her go. Now, before we get into the specific role of what an animal well-being specialist is, tell us a little bit about yourself and why animal well-being is so important to you.
Yeah, so it's probably not your traditional ag story. I actually grew up in a big city, but would always be bringing home sick or stray animals, often to my mom's dismay. But that love of animals followed me to college, got my degree in animal science, did research in animal welfare and animal nutrition, and made my way out here to Tyson Foods on the farm.
That's really neat when you can kind of turn a passion into a career. So, a lot of folks may not be aware that we have animal well-being specialists, so this is certainly an opportunity to kind of introduce this group of folks to the world. So what is their role? What exactly do they do?
Yeah, so those animal well-being specialists are actually a pretty unique group of folks here at Tyson Foods. They've been selected to monitor the animal well-being for their specific location. That said, animal welfare is really not a specific person's role. It's a company culture. So they're going to be working hand in hand with our live chicken operation team, our vet services team, the plant folks, and our corporate office of animal well-being to make sure everyone's doing the right thing.
And why was it so important for our company to invest, in this program and in nearly 60 new positions?
It's a great question, and I think our Chief Sustainability Officer really said that best. Animal well-being for Tyson Foods is about a journey, not the destination. It's really about the spirit of continuous improvement and doing the right thing. This is just another step for Tyson Foods and shows our deepened commitment in this important area.
And I understand that there was some pretty intensive training. Kind of describe, what these specialists went through before they were kind of deployed to the field.
Yeah, so it has been a pretty extensive training. Right out the gate, they started with some webinars provided by our corporate office of animal well-being. They all sat through at least 3 of those. Most recently, we brought the entire team to Northwest Arkansas for what we called an Animal Wellbeing Summit. They participated in a week of in-field, in-classroom training, getting a level set on all of our different production. They also participated in the Professional Animal Auditor Certification Organization's professional certification course.
That's a mouthful.
It is.
So, what's been the response to this fairly new program? I think part of it is just maybe getting the word out. But so far, from your point of view, what has been the response?
Yeah, so this specific initiative is pretty new, just like you said. We've been busy building this team, so we haven't had a ton of time to talk about it, which is, like you said, why we're here today. So far, I've heard nothing but great things.
All right. So one of the big questions is now this group has been, kind of established and they've been deployed. Let's get down to the nuts and bolts of this. What impact will these animal well-being specialists have on the animals?
Yeah, I think the impact's going to be significant. Not only do we have an extra set of eyes on our animals, but we have an empowered team day in and day out of our facilities, making sure everyone's following our proper practices.
Absolutely. So, we touched on this a little bit when we first met Nick and we were examining the bird, but outside of looking at the animals, when an animal well-being specialist arrives on farm, what else are they looking at? What else are they examining to kind of make sure everything's how it should be?
Yeah, so that inspection really starts on the drive-in. They're going to be looking for a clean, well-maintained farm. Moving into the control room, which I'm sure you all have been through already, houses a lot of the technology for the automation here in this chicken house, making sure that our training is up to date, the daily checks are all being performed. And then moving into the chicken house, they're going to be looking out for bird behavior. You can see here we've got about a third of the birds eating, a third of the birds drinking. The other third are hanging out, playing with their friends. Those are things you want to look for.
Absolutely. I'm gonna move over here real quick. So, obviously they're on the farm. You're on the farm. We've talked about kind of how these specialists operate, at the farm, but where else do they operate?
So for our chicken business unit, they operate across all of our production. So that means they're going to be spending some of their time in our hatcheries, at our processing plants, as well as on the farm.
And so, Nick, we're clearly a pretty big company. We started this program, and it's a big step, but, nearly 60 animal well-being specialists. From your point of view, do you think that's a big enough number? Is that enough?
Yeah, we are a pretty big company, but this team has been strategically placed, one at each and every one of our chicken complexes across the U.S.
Some past videos have shown Tyson Foods employees, unfortunately, mistreating animals. So what's your reaction to that, and how do you address those unfortunate situations?
Yeah, that's an important issue, so I'm glad you brought it up. I've seen and reviewed some of those videos, and I find them offensive. They certainly don't reflect my own values, the values of the folks I work with, or Tyson Foods as a whole. In those certain instances, we do take corrective action, and in some cases have terminated contracts and fired employees. I do want to touch on the fact that everyone who works with live animals is trained regularly on animal well-being and trained to report anything outside of our normal practices.
So how do we continue to get better in this area? There's been a lot of emphasis so far, but how do we continue to get better when it comes to animal well-being?
Yeah, so I said it before, but it really is a journey. This is just a deepened commitment to Tyson. We've really had our Office of Animal Well-Being since the early 2000s. We've had a written systematic approach to animal well-being since around 2008. And in 2012, we released our Farm Check program. This is just the next step, and I'm excited to see where we go.
Awesome. Well, Nick, we appreciate all the work that you do, as well as the other animal well-being specialists. But don't go anywhere. We're going to bring you back with our panel at the very end. And just another reminder, folks, if you do want to ask a question of any of our experts, we are going to have that opportunity here in just a few minutes. So please leave those questions in the comments section. All right, we're going to move on just a little bit. And now we want to bring in Scott Guston, Managing Director of U.S. Veterinary Services at Tyson Foods. So, Scott, obviously, you are a vet. And how long have you been with Tyson Foods?
I've been with Tyson for 13 years.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and why you chose to get into the field.
Well, it's not a typical story. I grew up as an Army brat, and it wasn't until my high school years where moved out to a small family farm, had some backyard chickens and some cows, and so started to get used to the farming life. But honestly, what really got me into this business is seeing a commercial house very similar to this for the first time in undergrad, and from that moment I was hooked. And chickens are fascinating. Poultry medicine is really fascinating, and the growers are pretty fascinating too.
Yeah, you developed a passion for it. So describe your role with the company. Now, I've seen you around the office, so you may be going business casual with loafers in the morning, and you may have a suit like this on in the afternoon. So what does a typical day look like for Scott Guston?
Well, that's the beauty of it, is really there is no typical day. Monday might be some office work or health papers or something like that. But most of the time we're out there on facilities. We're out at farms with the hens and the roosters that are providing eggs for this, the hatcheries or broiler farms. And honestly, some days it's just kind of like health checkups, and other days, we're responding to emergencies or things that need further attention.
Yeah, it's always good when it's a little bit of everything, right? Now, clearly, you're not our only vet at Tyson Foods. We have them across the operation. So talk about that relationship and that dynamic with the vet and the technician and the farmer and kind of how that all works together.
Well, it's really critical that we're in constant communication about what's going on there, and we can respond to situations quickly. Fortunately, a lot of technology today helps us make that message a little bit quicker. But the other thing that's good, and I think good for our company and our size, is that we're able to talk and determine what are best practices out there, especially when you embark on something like no antibiotics ever production.
So when you or another Tyson vet walks into a house just like this, kind of walk me through, what you're looking for, what that process looks like, and kind of the checks that you go through.
Yeah. So like, you're always looking at bird behavior and any signs of illness, but it really is age dependent. So like at this age, we're talking about birds about 3 weeks, and that's a time where the intestines can have some changes or maybe even some stresses. So honestly, today we're just looking at chicken poop, and we're making sure that everything looks all right in this farm.
So we're looking at, so how does the poop look?
Oh, it's fabulous.
All right, so we discussed this outside, with Dylan a little bit, but I think it bears repeating because we are kind of dressed a little bit funny. But describe the suits that we're wearing and why it's so critical to the health and the comfort of these birds that we're actually dressed like this.
Well, unfortunately, it's not for our comfort, but it's a cornerstone of biosecurity, which is keeping outside disease agents outside of the farm and not coming in here. Obviously, that would be a pretty big bird welfare impact if we were to track some type of disease here, or if we went to a farm afterwards. We want to make sure we leave it here what we can.
Now, setting the record straight a little bit, some folks may think that we use hormones or steroids on these chickens. Is that true?
Hormones and steroids are not used in poultry production. Matter of fact, it's illegal.
And we've eliminated antibiotics in our Tyson retail brand, and in fact, these birds have not been treated with antibiotics either. So what do we use in place of that medicine to make sure that they are healthy?
Well, we've been using numerous ingredients over the years. Probiotics have been in our feed for over 8 years, but I think we've been doing our homework on some of these alternatives, and a lot of the compounds are stuff that you could find in your kitchen cabinet.
Yeah, and give me an example. What would those ingredients be?
Oh, I mean, some of the ingredients, oregano, capsaicin, or something you'd find in hot red peppers, even cinnamon. Yeah. So we're really just continuing to evaluate the research that's out there, so we can improve the gut health of these birds.
So Bruce, let's get a shot of this feed bin right here. So there's cinnamon mixed in with that feed, right?
It's part of the ingredient combination in here. So. On a nutritious little bite.
Very good. All right, Scott, last question as we come back over here. Some people have raised the questions about, why our chickens grow a little bit faster than they used to. So why is that?
Well, it's a matter of selective breeding. It's a natural breeding process, but they're taking the best of the best, and they're balancing out animal health traits, animal welfare traits, along with production traits. So it's a constant evolving process.
All right, Scott. Well, I know I've learned a lot. I certainly appreciate your time, but don't go anywhere because Scott will be a part of our panel here in just a second or two. Again, please continue to submit those questions to the comment section below. We're going to get our panel together over here, and we're going to start asking them some questions provided by you, the viewer. So hang on. We're going to be right back. But in the meantime, I want to give you a little sneak peek of what we're going to be showing you after the panel, and that's our chicken cam. So if we'll cut to that right now, we'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. We're joined by our full panel here, Scott Gustin, Nick Wolfenton, and Dylan Butler. And we've gathered some of your questions, so now we want to take the opportunity to address those. And so I'll start off with, so we've had some questions about the beginning of the production process and if the steps that we're taking are enough. And so I think the best way to answer that is just, one of the actions that we announced yesterday is a pilot project so we can better understand alternatives at the beginning of that harvest process procedure. I think right now it's a little bit too early to know exactly what those new techniques may mean, but we're always pushing to improve things and how we do them. So that's certainly a part of that continual improvement process. All right, so let's see. Our next question. So this is for Nick. Nick, why don't your new chicken welfare policies meet minimum standards adopted by some food service companies?
Yeah, so this really is a journey, like I said before. Just because we made these commitments today or yesterday doesn't mean that we're going to stop. I think that we'll continue to look at new ways to improve animal well-being. Okay, so this question comes in from MJ Greenwade, and this is for Dylan, so pardon me while I slide around here. Dylan, the question from MJ, how does a big operation like this handle waste?
Well, most of our chicken litter is what we call it. Most of our chicken litter goes completely out of state. 98-99% of it goes totally out of state. A lot of it goes to row crop country.
Okay, so it's eventually used for
fertilizer. Yes, for fertilizer in row crop country.
Okay, excellent. All right. So let's go on to our next one. So we're going to stick with Dylan. So we were just inside the house a few minutes ago, and you got that full tour. So this question comes from Sheridan Hill, and Sheridan's question is the lighting typically this bright in the house? Dylan?
The lighting today, we've enhanced the lighting today. The lighting is brighter than usual just so the camera can have a good view over what's going on in the chicken house. Now, the way the birds are acting is just the same as the way the birds would act if they were dimmed down some. But typically, yes, we dim the lights down some.
Yeah, just brought them up a little bit just to provide a little bit better picture so everyone could get a good idea of what's going on in the house. Okay. John Yoder asked, what is the temperature and the humidity inside the barn?
That's a good question. The temperature inside the barn, it changes from day one. We're going to start the chickens off at a nice warm temperature of 92 degrees. By the time we sell them, it'll be mid to low 60s. And so that just comes with the size of the bird, their feathering. The temperature changes throughout the barn. The entire flock, it's ramped down on a curve just for the chickens' health and well-being and their comfort. And the humidity, it varies greatly on what's going on outside. We try to target a humidity of 50%. However, there's days that we can be down way low, around 30% humidity. If it's pouring down rain outside, they're going to feel that 70% humidity just like what, we would if we came outside. So a lot of times we're going to target for around 50%. That's a very comfortable rate for the bird. But it can vary within the house due to different weather changes.
I know the humidity outside is pretty thick today. All right, so I'm gonna slide over here back to Scott Gustin, and again, Scott is one of our top vets at Tyson Foods, and we have a question from Ken Hornick, and Ken asks, are there really a need for hairnets?
It's a great question, and one it's been debated a lot over the years. But really, it's easy to do, and it just minimizes the contamination you could take from one place to another. As you know, there's a lot of in the chicken house, there's going to be a lot of dander and things like that, dust that might get into your hair. You could take it to another farm. So that's something we try and do just to eliminate cross-contamination.
And do the fans play a role in any of that?
Yeah, they're constantly exhausting or ventilating the house at all times.
Yeah, bringing in some fresh air. So another question that we received from Stacy, and we'll direct this towards Scott again. Do the birds have access to the outside?
No. We do not, in this form of production, we do not let birds go outside. We feel that's another very important part of our biosecurity program is that birds aren't exposed to the outside elements. We obviously don't want to keep them safe from predators, but then also with threats like even influenza, we feel this is very important for the welfare and safety of the birds.
Right. It goes back to offering them the best comfort that we possibly can. Okay, so we're going to slide back over. We need some questions for Nick. We're kind of leaving him out to dry here. So we're going to go back over here to Dylan. This question comes into us from Janice. So is this a company-owned ranch or contract-owned farm? And let me slide my questions here. So, Dylan?
Well, this farm is owned by my family. We're the Butler family. It's owned by my family, and we contract out with Tyson for the Tyson owns the chickens that are in our farm.
And this is a fourth-generation poultry farm, right?
Yes, sir. That's right.
All right. Okay, so, ask and you shall receive. I needed a question for Nick, and we've got one, so I'm not sure who this comes in from, but the question is, when will you start providing enrichments like perches? So Nick, I think it might help if we explain maybe what enrichments are and then get to the perches part of that question.
Yeah, great question. So enrichments are really anything that the birds can interact with. Perches specifically, something for them to climb up on. And that is something that we're looking at Tyson Foods. So we actually do look at quite a lot of different things here in our chicken houses, and that's one of them that we're investigating.
Okay, great. All right, bear with me, folks, while I find the next. Okay, here we go. So this comes into us from Josh and Scott. The question is, what happens to all the males?
Well, and maybe we should explain that while we're in the house, but males and females, this is a straight run flock. So everything that's hatched is going into this house. So males and females are both housed together and grow together.
Okay, all right. So next question, if you'll bear with me, folks, I'm going to grab a few more right quick, and we're going to stay on this side as we get some more wisdom from Mr. Scott here. And the question comes in from James, and the question is, are your chickens grass-fed? I'm going to let you hold the mic just for a second.
Okay, sure thing. I guess you could say our chickens are not grass-fed. They're fed a balanced diet of soybean meal, corn, maybe some bakery byproducts like a cookie meal or something like that, and some vitamins and minerals to keep them going.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. So we're going to keep this coming in fast and furious. The next question. Okay, we've got Jody Oline, who says it's so rare to see inside a chicken barn. Thank you. Well, Jody, you're very welcome, and thank you for tuning in. All right. Carmen Trammell writes in, how do you address the buildup of ammonia inside of a chicken house?
Well, I'd say that ammonia is constantly monitored in those houses, but that is part of our ventilation program that we have that these growers execute. And that's something that we're also checking with our farm check audits that doesn't get, because obviously ammonia it's an irritant, and it's something that we don't want building up because that would affect the bird's respiratory system. But most of that is through, if you can control moisture in the house, which you could see in there we're doing a good job of, then you can control ammonia.
Okay. All right. So our next question comes into us from Lori, and let's see. Lori's question, it looks like probably Dylan's the best to answer this since this is your farm. So Lori's question is, how often do you fully change the litter?
The litter, all the litter gets exchanged once a year. So every year there's all the old litter goes out, and there's new fresh bedding brought in.
So when you talk about bedding, what exactly is that? To kind of describe what that is.
Well, it's fine, fluffy pine shavings is what the bedding is that we use.
All right, very good.
And another thing that's done with the litter on this farm, in between flocks, the litter goes into a windrow, which is kind of a composting and a heating, which takes out or reduces some of the bad bugs we have in the house. But one thing we've also found with no antibiotics ever production is that honestly that when we do rebed flocks, we sometimes have more problems than when we have older bedding. And we think that's due to just there's a natural buildup of good intestinal gut bugs that are in that house, like lactobacillus, something you find in a yogurt, that stay over time, and we want to have those there for flocks. So good sanitation program is a part of it, but also we feel like we're managing the litter and the resources we have in that house.
So some people may think that once per year isn't frequent enough, but kind of go a little bit deeper into why only once per year.
Well, It's honestly, that's just a matter of how things have evolved in this region with waste management. But we also cycle through different products, and so it's kind of hitting the reset button every once in so often. But we don't want to do it to a point that we don't want to clean out so often that we're going to have to deal with issues with not having good intestinal flora in that house, good gut bugs.
Introducing things that you don't want to in the system.
Go for it.
Okay, so we have another question that's come in that we want to ask. I'll probably direct this to Scott. So, as we look at the house and we kind of are given a tour, there aren't any windows in this house. So why is that?
Well, we like to have lighting controlled and consistent and calm throughout the house. And birds really, they don't necessarily like a lot of changes and a lot of differences there. So that's something that we want, because also the birds' lighting needs change as their age changes. So we want to be able to provide them what they need at certain times.
All right, very good. Okay, we're still we're waiting for another question or two to come in. Okay, so you guys, the question is where does the waste go when it's cleaned out? And I know we kind of addressed that a little bit, but we want to touch on it again. So where does the waste go when the litter go when it's cleaned out of the house?
Well, again, about 98% of it is loaded up in massive semi trucks, 53-foot trailers that haul chicken litter, and it's taken up into the row crop countries, Missouri, Kansas, all these places that are big row crop countries, and they use it up there for fertilizer. And around here there is a little bit of spreading that goes on for cattle production and row crop production around here, but again, with our litter, I should say, with the Butler litter, about 98% of it is going out of state.
So it sounds like that's just kind of one step in kind of a whole sustainability process.
Yes, that's right.
Fertilizer.
Yes, that's right. And also on the question earlier, one thing that I thought I should add is we do, even if we don't do a full clean out, every flock, a lot of times we will add in fresh bedding, fresh shavings, fresh pine shavings, just on top of the litter that exists inside the house. So.
Okay, very good. Well, folks, certainly we want to keep answering your questions. So keep those questions coming in, and we'll try to answer as many as possible. So we're gonna come back to Scott, and so there's some discussion about slow breeding chickens, slow growing chickens. Scott, how can you address that?
I'd say I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what's going on, and I think that people think that there needs to be more focus on welfare related traits, but I think that's something the industry is definitely taking note of. I think all of the breeding companies that are out there breeding poultry want to balance both production traits and welfare traits. So, there's definitely interest or a lot of talk about it, but I think at the end of the day, people want a good welfare outcome, and no matter what breed it is, that's what everyone's after.
Sure. The overall welfare of the bird is of the utmost priority. So, once again, folks. Yeah, so we want you to keep those questions coming in. Why don't let's cut to the chicken camera just for a moment as we take a few more of your questions. Keep leaving them in the comment section below, and let's cut to that chicken camera, and we're going to gather just a few more of your questions. All right, we're back live here in Northwest Arkansas at the Butler Family Farm. We've got a couple more of your questions. This one comes in from Suzanne McMillan, and this is another reason why I'm glad we have our experts on scene. A cap. She's asking about a cap on ammonia ppm, and I think I'm going to direct this to Scott. So cap on ammonia ppm.
So there's an industry standard of 25 parts per million of ammonia. We're targeting for much less than that, and it is a part of all of our audits. So, and we're taking that measurement there down at bird level because it's irritant to the birds and something we just don't want. So, but ventilation practices, if we're following those on the farms, we're not going to get to that point.
Okay. All right. Our next question comes in, and this is directed to Nick Wolfenden. Again, Nick is one of our animal well-being specialists. So what happens when an animal well-being specialist finds an issue? What happens next?
Those folks are going to work collaboratively with those live chicken production team members, make sure there's a corrective action and that's implemented on the farm.
All right, Nick. All right, gentlemen, we appreciate all your time. I think you've given us all a really good education about what happens outside, inside, before and after right here on the farm. And, folks, we appreciate you for tuning in. But don't forget, if you want to watch our whole live broadcast, you can go back at a later date. You'll find the link right here on our Facebook page. It'll direct you back to TysonFoods.com. And we're also going to leave you today with our live chicken cam. Once again, for the foreseeable time, we're going to go live to that chicken cam so you can get an inside look of the house and what it's like to be a Tyson chicken for a few minutes. So let's go to that camera now, and thank you for tuning in.